Okay, the toolbox. The toolbox. The toolbox is where all the tools live. And you can have it in a single column, double. This little double arrow up here does that for you. Some people prefer that, some people prefer this. It doesn't really matter to me. I know that a couple of things about the toolbox that make my life a lot easier. These little triangles mean that as Photoshop users we have additional tools in that specific tool family. So every time we see a little triangle, we know we have, this is my favorite word as a graphics person, options, right? Options. Every one of these that has a triangle has optional tools. Now, let's do something very simple with this. You'll notice when you depress one of these that even though they're all part of the selection tool here called the lasso tool, right? They all have the shortcut keystroke shortcut for L for those tools. All right, so having said that, you'll notice that this has W for the wand. W for wand. A lot of these are letters based on the name of the tool, but not all of them, and we must be cautious when we assume things in Photoshop, because assuming things will get you in trouble sometimes. This particular tool is the marquee tool. M is the marquee tool. This is the move tool. M is already taken for marquee, so they had to use a character in the word move that would let us remember what the shortcut is. They picked the V for move. Crop, of course, is C. We know that that's crop. This is the eyedropper tool. E was already taken, as you'll see, so that's the I for eyedropper, I. Brush tool, of course, is B. There was nothing else using the B. This patch tool, red eye tool, healing brush, all of these are very, very cool, very time-saving, very, very easy way to fix issues on graphic images. That's J. There's a lot of stuff here. The ones you should learn are V, M, L, C for crop. This brush tool is B. These are very easy ones to remember. G for gradation. You'll be using that. By the way, on my particular processor, as you saw in the transform tool, the gradations don't show up well. I'm using a small laptop just to create the tutorials, so you'll see that. Another one you need to know is T for type. There's your T, right? There's a lot of them, and then underneath here you can edit the toolbar and make your own list. This is where we can assign a foreground color as well as a background color. This is important when you're doing gradations and other things. If you want to go to the default black and white, they're here, right? If you want to pick a foreground color because you're in default, you can click that square and click any color in this picker box, or use the slider on the bar and pick any color in the slider. So let me just show you what I do. I pick the darker tone, put it on top, click the bottom square, click anywhere else that I want. It can be in the picture, right? It can be in the bar, it can be anywhere, and say OK. And I have a value. If I want to switch them, I can do that, right? And if for some reason I get to the point where I need to go back to default, I can click this. Or shortcuts, keystroke shortcuts, D for default. D for default. X for exchange. Exchange, X, gets the gives us the ability to replace the foreground with the background with the foreground. So X goes back and forth. Okay. How do we use these effectively? Well, if we're going to from the marquee tool, M, and we're selecting something, and then we want to go to the V tool and move that, right? We can do that. So that's kind of handy to remember. And remember, Control D deselects. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is this. Let's go to L for the lasso tool. Any of these, T for type. Once you know the shortcut keys, your life gets a lot easier. M, if you watch the toolbar, V, M, L, right? C for crop. I mean, there's all kinds. B for brush, G for gradation. It just depends on what you're using. Let's look at type. Because if you know T for type and you hold the Shift key down and press the type tool shortcut, which is T, it cycles through the hidden tools for you. This is pretty cool. Let's go to the L for lasso. If you hold the Shift key and cycle through, it shows you the hidden tools. Hold the Shift key and tap L continuously. So if you need to change from tool to tool, you can do that, right? Okay, let's go to C and do it one more time. Shift C will cycle through. All right, let's go to B and do it there. B, Control, Shift, sorry. I'm on a PC, I'm not on a Mac, by the way. Shift, and of course that's a whole other discussion, but let me just say this up front. You can buy a Mac if you need to have that logo on the outside shell of your computer. If you need that in your life, buy yourself a Mac. Again, my own humble opinion, if you just want to do your work and not have to pay an exorbitant amount of money for the computer you're going to do your work on, get a PC that has a lot of RAM, a lot of processing power, and as big an external hard drive as you can buy. I'm a PC guy, sorry, that's just saying. Apple's fine, but I don't want to pay for the logo. All right, so all of that aside, I've been known to bring my personal opinions into my teaching, and some people complain about that, so feel free to bitch and moan. All right, so just quickly, those are the tools. Now, I'm going to go back to this for a minute and just look at the tulip, because there are 3 modifier keys. If you look at your keyboard now, and we're talking about shortcut tools, we're talking about the toolbox and shortcut tools and how we can use it. I'm going to go back to V for move. And the move tool will move things around. Once they're on, be careful once they're on their own layer, right? Okay, they'll move things around. But look at what happens when we use the modifier keys. There are 3 modifier keys: Shift, Control, and Alt. Modify means to change. And of course, if you hold down the Shift key and click and drag, it constrains it. It changes the behavior of what you're doing when you use that tool, right? It constrains it. If you're aware of these tools on the keyboard, it will make your life a lot easier. If you wanted to make a copy of this tulip, you could hold the Alt key and you see the double-headed arrow. You can now make a copy and put it anywhere. And you'll see after I let go that it'll put it on its own layer. But we're talking about modifier keys and the keyboard shortcuts now. You can hold the Shift key down and it will constrain it and make a copy at the same time. And that's pretty cool to know. Right? All right. So I'm going to undo that and undo that, and we'll leave it at that. So the toolbar and the modifier keys, Shift, Control, and Alt. And you'll hear me use the modifier keys a lot as you watch me work, because for me they're indispensable. They really help me keep my stuff moving forward in a way that eliminates a lot of backtracking. Yeah, and that's a big deal in Photoshop. All right, so learn your shortcuts. Remember, shift and tap the shortcut to cycle through, and then remember that you can do a single or a double by clicking the arrow. Once you learn the shortcuts, it doesn't really matter, but the shortcuts are such a big deal to learn. Okay.